Hi, and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. And on this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by legendary drummer and vocalist, Corky Laing. And now many of you will know Corky from his time in Makin, Bruce and Laing, and numerous other solo albums and projects. So welcome, Corky, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing just terrific. We just finished a mini tour of the UK, doing, I think, 6 or 7 dates in a row in different towns.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, I've been to the UK quite a few times, but this particular tour, we were doing some of the most beautiful little towns. And it's always good. It's always a great trip. My father was born in Birmingham,
really?
So there's a little bit of the UK in me. And and I'm a football fan now, a big football fan.
Yeah.
Soccer, football. So I've changed. I'm UK'd. UK'd.
What was it like getting back on stage after all of us have been through the lockdown? Was it an emotional experience getting back in front of an audience?
Yeah, I would say it was. I didn't really take notice of it because it was one of those things where I think I've been on stage ever since my bar mitzvah. It's kind of like and I don't remember being off even during the COVID. I was in Finland and it was pretty clean here. I was out in the country and in the studio with 1 or 2 people. So I was recording. So in fact, I was performing. It was pretty cool. I didn't really notice it because luckily I didn't have COVID and nobody around here at the time had it. So I have to say it, I somehow avoided that one.
Fantastic. So I wanted to ask you about the Finnish Sessions. Obviously it's called the Finnish Sessions because it was recorded in Finland. Is that somewhere you live now or are you still based in America as well?
50-50. 50-50, Phil. Yeah, over the last couple of years, I spent a great deal of time here, some wonderful people, and I've gotten to know some really very, very talented musicians here.
Yeah.
Some of them even play in the orchestra in Helsinki. It's just the vibe out in this proximity outside Helsinki. There seems to be, these musicians that love to play, and the studio I have available is actually sort of a ranch. It's sort of where they a boarding for horses and stuff. I play above the horses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of mellow. And I must say, very fortunate to have the situation here. But yes, to answer your question, about 50-50 from here in Finland. And I've been doing some quite a bit of touring over here. And in America, 50. Yeah, 50. Yeah. I would actually, according to the immigration, you may want to check with them. I have to check my visa. But yeah, 50-50. I love it here. It's quite nice.
Cool. Now, I love the album and I've been playing it a lot. And would you say it's an album of 2 halves? Like there's the first half of the album, there's the more kind of rocky bass tracks. And then the second half seems to be more kind of mellow and more laid back and a bit towards ballads.
I would say that's pretty correct. I consider myself a schizophrenic. So, I mean, I go back, I'm a Canadian folkie. I mean, when it comes to troubadour type, Gordon Lightfoot, whatever, there's a lot of me in that. And then playing, going to New York and then playing what I would consider a bit heavier music. So I do have, you got the drums and you got the writing and playing and singing. And I love them both terribly. And I'm a bit conflicted, but that's the record. It's just because I was saying, what am I going to do? I mean, even going back to the Mountain era, there was Felix doing his sort of folky thing with his sweet voice and Leslie having the gut vocal doing rock. I was doing the drumming for both. But I guess down deep, I'm just an old-fashioned romantic. I love a great song. Yeah. And just because I rock out on the drums, I try to keep that ambience of, how do you say it, power and energy in that, in a song, whether it's slow or fast. I always believe if you're really drumming great, people will dance. And yes, sometimes they'll do the horizontal bop. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a little bit of a tight dance, but as long as they dance, you're drumming well.
But also, you do good vocals on this as well. There's more. There's two sides to you, and there's a video for one of the tracks off this, isn't there?
Yes, there
the
is.
ball. And what's the story behind the video? Because it looks like trying to. Is it about the environment or escaping the rat race? Yeah.
Well, that's I'm in love with a Finnish girl who has her opinions about a lot of things, and it seeps into my particular. We symbiotically think about the world now, and as it turned out, we were watching a documentary on Greta. Remember little Greta?
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
And very fond. I mean, quite a woman, quite a girl. And we were the song itself started out as a tribute to her, how she bops around the world, but she will not take, she's very careful about her footprint, and anyways, it started off that way. And then we started, well, maybe she won't like the song, maybe you have to take that into consideration. So it sort of went into, it was actually an expression, we don't want to drop the ball on this record. And then I said, well, there's the ball, the ball is the world. So if in fact, yes, it's a statement about it all. And we just came back from about quite a few months, pretty crazy months in America. So I don't have to tell you, read the news. It's, excuse the expression, it's fucking crazy. And again, you can always beat me. The point is, it's that crazy is what I'm saying. And there's a lot of really bad things going on. And I'd like to think the bottom line is most musicians, and there are a couple of that run amok, are positive or optimistic about things. I think you have to be optimistic. Otherwise, you may as well just dirt nap, forget it, just let the world go by. But so I like to think it's a positive.
Well, music is the healer, isn't it? It's like it is the doctor for our times. It takes, it really does all bring us together. So a lot of these songs that they're very strong, and it must be very difficult for you when you put together your set list to slot in songs, your latest songs amongst all the classics. So have you managed to put some songs in from this? Yeah. Good question. Good perception. Yeah, I very much wanted to. And The Ball is a difficult song because I didn't realize when I wrote it that I was going to have to play that much drumming along with basically phrasing. It's sort of like just talking over. Yeah. It's sort of almost like, what do you call it? Spoken word over a drum set. And I love that. And it took quite a bit to practice to do it on stage on this last tour. And I have to say, I'm really knocked out that people liked it a lot. They especially responded to, can you feel the cold wind blowing down? I mean, it's just, but in the song, it comes separately. And anyways, the response has been pretty good to that. And I don't have to tell you, you get pretty anxious when it comes to trying new stuff. When you have all the classic songs there, you don't have, a lot of bands, they try to put out new songs and new things. And it's difficult because they don't get the response that they hope they get. I was a little surprised at the response of The Ball. So I tell you, I'm pretty knocked out. Well, it's coming on the back of another strong album, though, isn't it? The Toledo Sessions from 2019. That was also really powerful album, especially the opening song. Is it Beautiful Flies with the drumming and it's even got a drum solo in it? It's such a rocking track.
Well, it's one of those things as you move around in the world, we all move around. I ended up with a couple, I won't get in specifically. Actually, it was Kofi Baker that introduced me to this guitar player who introduced me to this Mark Michael. The guitar player was Chris Shutters. Really talented guys who I didn't know anything about. I just went there with an idea with these songs, and it really worked out. Mark had a small studio, and we went in and really had no idea about doing an album. We were just playing, and they were going to sort of be my band.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, things moved along, and they moved along and got married, had a kid, the whole thing. So it was hard to sort of navigate a proper tour band. But I'm still, very friendly. They're very, very brilliant musicians. And in fact, when we did the record, they kept on saying, Cork, can we do old school? In other words, we didn't want to do any PowerPoint, whatever it is, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I said, well, yes, because I really don't understand that shit anyway. So I have no choice. But they really wanted to do. We were listening to mountain climbing, listening to the sequence of the record. Because it did have a ballad of sorts. I mean, Nantucket Sleighride. It's a folk song with an orchestra behind it. It sort of reminds me of Procol Harum Conquistador. Remember that one?
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. You have the power of every now and then of an orchestrated, and if it works, it's great. So that album, as we wrote it, we said, well, this is kind of like that. And towards the end, I remember thinking to myself, I want to play the drum beat to. Remember the Van Halen song, Teachers and
Hot for Teacher? Hot for Teacher, yep.
If you listen to his drumming, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, I'm not a competitive guy, and by nature, I said, fuck this. I'm going to get this drum part, and I'm going to write a song on top of it.
Yeah, it has traits. I can hear it now. Yes, it has the way it opens. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's me copying what's his name, Van Halen.
Eddie.
Eddie. Well, the brother, and never realized how amazing a drummer he was. I mean, I've always liked the band, and so that song was built upon like just an idea. Let's do this, and Mark came up with this idea of this lick and going, and we just went at it on that one.
Fantastic.
Pretty much a live song. The same way on the new record, Everyone's Dream is a live. It's just me playing, and you build on it. And a lot of drummers do it. A lot of writers do it. They build. A lot of writers build on the guitar. I build on the drums, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Now, the Mountain songs, of course, they've lost none of their power or influence over the decades, have they at all? And did you think at the time that these songs would, in decades to come, you'd still be playing them?
Absolutely not. You don't know that, but keep in mind that I go back to the 50s, when music, a musician, it was a summer job. There was no rock and roll. There was basically maybe and roll. But going to the 60s, you come into a whole different culture, and each decade has its own thing. And the 60s, I don't think anybody knew this was going to happen. Think about whether it's Jimi Hendrix or they just did what they did. As it turned out, it became classic because people liked it as generations came, as they moved on. Like my son, he's a big, he was like 6 years old, and all he wanted to do was, and I'm saying, don't you want to try new things? And no, it's unexpected. Surprise. It's a great surprise, actually.
I think it's also the simplicity. I discovered Mountain quite late on. It was the mid-70s, and I'd bought a triple live album called the Atlanta Concert, or I think it was Isle of Wight, and there was one track on it by Mountain called Stormy Monday. Which took on a whole of one side.
That's right.
And I just loved Leslie's voice, the groove from the drums and the bass. And so I went backwards then in time and bought Climbing and all the others. And obviously Mississippi Queen has become famous for the cowbell. In fact, sometimes I've seen it written on the internet that you are the king of the cowbell, which is but
it's better than being the popper,
but it works, doesn't it? It's such a great riff and a great song, Mississippi Queen. It's a great rock song.
Again, I've said it many times. I don't want to repeat it too much, but that song was just feel. In my local band, we played this beach club in Nantucket, and quickly what happened is a friend of mine, an artist friend, brought a girlfriend of his up from Mississippi. In Nantucket in the summer, a lot of girls came up to do waitressing in Nantucket. and she was drop dead gorgeous, and he was dancing with her on this little floor. It was, dust and beer and everything like that. And I was playing, and the power and the whole island went off. At that time, it was like 120 degrees in Nantucket, and they didn't have air conditioners back in the 60s. You didn't need it. You were on the ocean, So the air conditioners came in, and sure enough, they blew the whole thing out. And there was a one of those lights, the urgent, whatever they call them, the backup light on her. And I was playing Up on Cripple Creek. She sends me if I, and I'm playing the song, and everything goes out. So it's just me and the cowbell. And when you play the cowbell, Phil, people love to dance. Anytime they hear a cowbell, let's dance. So I wanted to keep her dancing. That was the idea. I wanted to keep her dancing. And I knew, and I kept screaming out, and I knew she was from, I said, hey, Mississippi. And I was playing the beat to Triple Creek. Yeah, hey, Mississippi. And then she looked at me, and I figured, I got a chance here. Maybe I could pick her up on the drums. Now, point being is that at the time I did this whole riff, sort of rap, I guess, because there was nothing else. Well, hey, Mississippi, you know what I mean? Type with screaming, lost my voice. Anyways, my friend took her home. He got lucky. I took the lyrics home, and remember back to New York, because we got fired, actually, the band I was in. And I remember sitting in the loft, and I was right. I said, the guys in the band, 3 friends of mine, God, you got to help me with this lyric. I think the guy, Cork, we don't got a record deal. We got nothing. What are you writing, a lyric? I said, it just feels like it could be cool. So I finished the lyric, and I said, guys, I need 2 syllables to a place in the South, in Mississippi. New Orleans is too hard to pronounce. Way down around Pensacola, no. So one of my friends, David Ray, a folkie himself from Canada, he said, well, there's a place I played called Vicksburg. I never heard of it. I said, wow, Vicksburg is too percussive works. Anyways, I told him at the time, Dave, you know what? If anything ever happens with this song, I'll give you 10% for Vicksburg. Sure enough, a year later, the record comes out, and boom, and I kept Vicksburg in there. He never said a word. We did the publishing, and sure enough, he got a lot of money for Vicksburg. Let's put it that way. But the point being is that it was a fun song. It was about fun. There was no purpose. There was no agenda. We weren't writing. I had no deal. I had nothing. No. All I wanted to do was pick this girl up on the drums. I figured, being a drummer and not being that pretentious and all that. But anyway, so the fun part of that remains. When I remember bringing Leslie and I getting together to do mountain climbing, and Felix says, you guys got to write something. And Leslie's a real good writer. And we go up to his studio apartment on Park Avenue. And he said, what do you got? I said, well, Les, I got, and he said, you got any lyrics? I said, yeah. And I pulled out, just like that, the lyric. And I put it down on the table. Leslie picks up the guitar within a New York second. It was, ba-na-na-na. Then he just started singing, da-da-da-da-da. And we knew at the end of the day, we said, wow, we actually wrote a song that we had never written before. And that was the beginning of the fun part of that record, because then we did Never in My Life, all these things that were just everyday common stuff. Yeah. And I never at that point really considered myself a lyric writer. But it was a financial pleasure, Phil. I hope that wasn't too long a story for you.
No, it's perfect. But because the other thing, like a hand of fate intervened, if you were in the UK in the 1970s, was that every single week in the living rooms across the country, Nantucket Sleighride was played at the end of the World in Action current affairs program. So every parent, every child heard this roar of guitar and Hammond organ and crash ending, and what is that? And it was obviously called Nantucket Sleighride. Now I know I know the story behind the song. It's about the whaler and the kid, etc. But do you live in Nantucket? Do you, or you did?
Yeah, I was living. Yeah, I used to go to Nantucket. I lived in Montreal. I brought up in Montreal.
So is it connected, the song and where you lived, or was it just coincidence?
No, absolutely. What happened is during that time, every summer I would go to Nantucket because it was the ocean. girls, beach, sand, everything. It was wonderful. So we managed, we didn't get paid any money. It was fun. Well, when Mountain came together on the road, we went to Hyannis. And Felix says, I said, listen, I got a week off. I'm going to Nantucket. So he says, I'll go with you. So we rented, of course, he got a private plane, Felix. And we went, we went, and he woke up in he woke up in this real funky, lodge, whatever. And he turns around and says, this is beautiful. I'll buy this. I said, Felix, it may look like a piece of shit, but this thing's $500,000. It was just a shack. And he fell in love with it. He fell in love with Nantucket. And as a result, he got into the whole whaling thing. And during that song, he wrote the song. But when we were going for what I consider to be the sleigh ride, what you're talking about, all that, I was playing that and I had a hell of a time because there's a 5/4 bar in there. It stops and it's a time thing. And I got really frustrated in the studio. And Felix, and we say, what are we going to do? We had the beautiful changes, good man. Yeah. We had all the changes. And then when it went to what we consider to be, the ride, I have to say, I lost it. I just went crazy on the drums. And I remember at the end, I was playing doing everything I knew is in that sleigh ride. I'm playing, and I said to Felix, listen, I'm really sorry. We'll take it back. I'm really sorry. I lost it. And Felix says, no, it's out there. Let's just see. That's the one. So he kept it. And you're right. That was a financial pleasure too for him.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I just want I'm coming up now to a question I've always wanted to ask. I will know the answer to, and it's West Bruce and Laing, which is a part of your career which I absolutely adore. And there are 3 excellent albums, all different. And one of my favorite tracks off the first one, 1972, Why Don't You, is Love Is Worth the Blues, which I think has got a great riff, that middle section where Leslie goes down one way on his fretboard and Jack goes in the opposite direction, and behind it, you're bringing everything together. It's just fantastic. And it's just brilliant. Is that on the live album from 1974, that music is on there, but it's called Play With Fire, which is a cover by the Stones. So the confusion is, did it start as a cover song and then you wrote separate lyrics, or did it go from being one of your own songs and someone thought, let's change it into a Stones cover? What? No,
it was the other way around. As it turned out, without dropping names, we happened to hang out. There was opportunities there in England. We had the same management people and stuff. And I remember saying to Mick, at the time, I knew we did it. I knew we playing with Leslie took it. He didn't give a shit. He said, sounds great. Nobody would care. It turns out, I remember saying to Mick, I said, I don't know. What do we do about that? He says, I don't know. We didn't write it either. In other words, if you look at the Stone, I think that you look at the credits on the Stones record, it's some Nilbur Figen or something. Nobody. And the thing is that it's up in the air, and we grabbed it, but there's nothing to that song. It's da-da, da-da, da-da. And it was a lot of fun to do. And I'm glad you appreciate that. But I feel a little, not terribly bad, but feel a little bad that we copped that one right off of the Stones song, because that was for, which was the Stones record. It was a great record.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. It's a shame that the live album was a single album and not a double. I suppose the live tapes are long lost in some cupboard somewhere from the.
Well, that was a crazy time. We had 14 managers. Robert Digwood, who wasn't chopped liver at the time, heavy duty, Bud Prager, Gary Kurfürst, and there was a lot of commotion about that in terms of and also what record company you'd use, because Digwood had a relationship with Polygram, and Bud hadn't It was just confidentially, it was a fuck fest at the time. So when it came to picking and choosing, keeping in mind that when we got together with Jack, Leslie, and myself in February, we were on a mountain tour, and then when Jack, myself, we went to Chris Blackwell's place, the Island Studios, because Free had broken up. I'm telling you all this. I hope you're right. Just shut me down anytime.
No.
I've had 14 coffees, so you're going to have to deal with it. So what happens was that we get a call because they knew Mountain was breaking up. Leslie and I were going to break up. Felix wanted to go take a vacation, and why don't you come down, because Mott the Hoople's breaking up, and Free, and they were island artists, and they said, why don't you guys come and jam and see what happens?
Yeah.
Of course, there's Paul Rogers, over in Watts. What's his name? Martin. Mick Rouse. Mick Rouse, and Simon Kirke wasn't there, thank God. So I sit on the drum set, and I went, okay. Wow. And we sit with Leslie. So and then Paul Rogers starts playing, "Sail On, My Brother."
Oh wow!
Sail on.
Yeah,
and he starts playing. I am probably flipping out because I love Paul Rogers. And at the end, we played for 3 or 4 hours, the whole afternoon playing, and we have it on record. Yep. And we recorded it. And I remember Elliot was totally up, and we said, well, what are we going to do here? We've got Mick Rouse and Leslie West on guitar, which is pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
We had Paul Rogers and Leslie West on vocals. It was kind of like it was too much. It was almost like, what are you going to do with all that talent?
Super group. Yeah.
And as it turned out, of course, Paul and Mick Rouse went to do Bad Company. Yeah. They got together because there was a lot going on at that time. And later on, I got together with Ian to do some work with him, which was a lot of fun. But what was I getting at? What was going on with that particular time?
It was West Bruce. I mean, because I know that I've read that the West Bruce and Laing thing almost like imploded because you all had to escape from the band to save your own lives because of the mountain drugs.
that was part of it too. I was just saying, actually, I'm rewinding here. What happened was we were on the road with Mountain playing some of the shows, actually with Free opening up, actually.
Yeah.
And they found out, the management, I guess, they found out, hey, this is a band. They started booking West Bruce and Laing. We didn't even have a name, but they booked, under the three of us, an entire tour in America that sold out in April and May. They sold it out. We had no idea about that until they told us. By the way, you're on the road. We had no record. We had nothing. So we were under the pressure of putting together a record to put out. So I say no more on that, because any musician that's listening to this knows you just can't do that. There was no songs. I had to come in and write all these lyrics. Like I said before, I didn't consider myself a lyricist. You had Pete Brown writing the Cream lyrics. And Jack says, you go ahead, write lyrics. I said, you understand, Pete Brown's lyric, no, we'll do this. It was very, very, very out there. And it was too bad we never wrote songs, but we did play, and the playing was great.
Well, I think you'd had some great songs. I mean, I think you still do "Why Don't You" and "The Doctor," don't you? And you set every song.
We do that. That Leslie and I worked on that one, and we brought it in. I think certainly the way Jack was, he'd come bring in something, and then we'd play on it. But we actually worked together on all those songs. I'm not saying the songs weren't good. For me, I just thought, geez, it'd be nice to have another month just to write and not have to worry about hitting the road.
Because on the first. Yeah. On the first album, there's actually one of your is it one of your first lead vocal performances on the first album, wasn't it?
Right, that's right. And ask Barry Antelope if he can count for that one. That was. They felt sorry for me. It was one of those give the drummer some, and we just love Jack's train time when he's just with the harp. Remember? Yeah.
It's
so great. I remember saying to Leslie, I said, Les, if I play really fast on the brushes, and maybe Jack will play the stand-up bass, just do a slide guitar. And he's, Great idea. Well, who's going to sing it? I'll sing it. What's the song called? Turn Me Over. It's like one of those. What does it mean? Well, it's a sexual thing. When you turn a body over, it's a 69. I love it. It's dirty. I like dirty songs. Anyways, but thank you for the comment.
And after that band, after you, I think everyone went to recuperate. You did a couple of albums with Leslie, didn't you? The Great Gatsby, and also the Leslie West Band.
It was the Fatsby and the great. Yeah, we went off and tried to do stuff. I got to say, the guidance of Felix really became prominent. He had a tremendous hold on making a proper record. In retrospect, the problem with that is that when Felix started, God bless him, when he started seeing the writing that Leslie and I were doing, as Avalanche and Flowers of Evil, you'll see the credits. all of a sudden went right over to Gail and Felix, which caused some animosity. Not that Leslie does, yeah, we want to write songs. It's just that you start looking at the credits and you're going, well, wait a second, I had this song, and it caused animosity in the band, and I was too bad. But that's all part of the ego and stuff. Yeah. It's kind of like B-movie stuff,
Yeah. So in 1977, you release your solo album, Making It in the Street, and that's very different to what people might have expected. And my question on this is, because I love that album, it's got a real kind of Allman Brothers feel, which I guess is because Dickie Betts is on it as well.
John's, I hate to cut you off, John Sandlin,
the
Allman Brothers produced that record.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, because I if I'm going on, shut me down, because no. What happens at the time? Ahmet Ertegun was getting together with Capricorn Records, and it became with the Warner Brothers. So they wanted to take a northern artist into Capricorn Records in Macon, Georgia. So they called, and there I was, and I love the Allman Brothers. Yeah. But the problem was Felix had a thing with that, because he was supposed to produce the Allman Brothers, and he didn't get the job. So when we were on the road playing with the Allman Brothers, I want to go hang out with Greg. And Felix says, no, don't hang out with those guys. We don't want to hang out with those, because they said Mountain isn't a true blues band. Felix went, oh, well, you think so? A lot of silly shit. But the point being is that I met John through the record company, and John heard the songs, and he said the same thing. He said, geez, well, let's make a proper record. We don't have to do any particular style, because I didn't have any style. I just played. Anyway. So thank you for your kind words on that. But it was recorded in Macon, Georgia, and Dickie Betts, Eric Clapton played on that one. Yeah. Hey, and he liked it. I mean, he came down, he was hanging out playing. Who's the guy who wrote the "You Look Wonderful Tonight"? Played with Eric. He was down there too. Terry, somebody. Ron Terry. Yeah. He actually played bass.
Because I love it's Growing Old with Rock and Roll, Heaven, Two Places at One Time. There's some wonderful songs on it. Did it make you at any point think, I'm going to come out from behind the drums and do a Phil Collins and be a vocalist?
Well, it's funny, because this is way before Phil Collins. But I have to say, I got to tell you, and I'm being perfectly honest, I made the record. And when I made the deal, I really wanted to get a rating deal with Electra Asylum, because I knew I wanted to write songs, and I love writing. And so I found myself, I put the songs together with a band from Boston called the Johnson Brothers, not the Brothers Johnson. Yeah. They were a band, a great black group. They did amazing musicians, did covers. So they came to Nantucket, and we played. And at the time I sang the songs. I never considered myself a singer. That's why when it came to actually going on the road and touring, I threw in the flag. I said, I can't do this. I tried to get up behind the drums. I never considered myself a singer. And it took time. It took 40 years for me to get the experience, because, from the back end on stage, when you took the triangle, the drummer's way back, it's 150,000 miles to the front of the stage. It's not 15 feet. It's a long way to sing a song in front. Yeah. And I respect that. And so at the time I canceled the tour that we had in 1978 is at the tour. We had a great tour. And I'm sorry, I didn't have the confidence. You got to, we had the bus, we had the whole thing, we were on the West Coast. And, I did play the, what's the big thing in LA? What's the big thing on the Strip? Come on, I can't think of it.
Wasn't Whiskey a Go-Go, was it? It was
Whiskey. It was the Whiskey. Yeah. So I played there. Yeah, I think I had a band it was all right. And I think maybe 4 or 5 people showed up, but it was Warren Zevon and Keith Moon came to that show. These were friends of mine, and they feel really bad for me. They said, because nobody showed up at the show. Pink Floyd played, with the balloon, the big
Animals.
That was the summer. And when they had the balloon, I saw the picture over their outdoor gig in somewhere, Santa Monica, where they had a big thing, Corky Laing at the Whiskey. Flying behind the plane. I'm laughing because that's so old school, and but nobody really read that or showed up. It was a bomb, that particular time. But hey, Keith Moon showed up. And the Warren Zevon. I mean, come on.
That's not like just if you're going to have a couple of punters, those are the punters you want to wander in.
They're the punters, and they couldn't have been more supportive. They were great. It was great. But what I was saying to you is, out of the chute, the solo idea didn't work. And what happened? The second record I was doing, Electro Asylum, Steve Wax, the president of the company, says, "Listen, Ian Hunter's looking to do something. Ian, why don't you put something together?" So that's when Ian and I.
Yeah, this is the secret sessions, isn't it? Yeah, this kind of block. Yeah.
I don't want to block the questions.
No, but that's also very interesting. The fact that you were, because I'm a big Ian Hunter fan, and Mick Ronson. The fact that behind the scenes this happened, but it didn't come out for literally.
That's why
20 years, did it?
Yeah. No, it became, nobody knew about it. We called it just sessions. We did it at Levon's. We had, well, you saw I don't have the CD, but it was Ian and I were writing, and we were trying to figure out who to get. And they got, we at the time we had, I got to think of these names here. I have to get some brain farts going here. Hold on a second. So we called up Andy Fraser, bass player.
From Free.
Amazing player. We had him come up. We had the guitar player from a lot of music. We had Lee Michaels come. Remember Lee Michaels? We had the assortment of musicians that we compiled to get a super group together.
Yeah,
it was a fiasco. And we had the producer from Pink Floyd, the Canadian guy, whatever his name is. But we had all the best of the best, and it just fell apart. As you know, what's his name? Steve Hunter was the guitar player. He went to play with Bette Midler in the Rose, so we lost him. We called up the traffic singer of it. Anyways, we called up everybody, and it was just like, it was absolutely ridiculous. But the money was there. They kept putting money in. I never saw the money, but everybody else got paid. And but that was speak of a fiasco. It was, so Ian Hunter is sitting there without a band because he didn't like Lee Michaels. They didn't get along. Andy Fraser went back to Arizona. I loved that. He was great. And what are we going to get? Ian said, well, we'll probably get Mickey, Mick Ronson. I said, you kidding me? How are we going to afford him? We pissed away all the money. He says, let me talk to him. Sure enough, Mick shows up and starts playing, and forget about it. Well, I knew he was good, but he blew me away because he just does stuff. Everything every guitar player does, look at me. He does the exact opposite.
It's complete opposite, yeah.
Yeah, listen to me. Don't look at me. And so we started putting, then Felix came in at the end. It went Criteria. It was, I got to tell you, that was a whole history on its own. And that's became the Secret Sessions. And then finally, I think 2 years ago, a record company, what's it called? 9 Men, the one that the White Stripes guitar player put together this company. Come on, Corey. Was it? Third Man. Yeah. Third Man Records. He did the White Stripes, and he did the record. Well, he was a friend of somebody who's a friend in Detroit. And why don't we take Secret Sessions and put it out on vinyl? I said, well, it's still a secret. They put it out on what they call it. And at the time when Ian and I would get together, we were up in Levon Helm's farm up there on the mountains in Woodstock. And it was a laugh because Eddie was doing the, come on, Cork, was doing the engineering and
Eddie Kramer.
It was quite something. Yeah. And then, so I said, Ian says, why don't we call the band Pompeii? You know what I said? And I looked at him. I said, you kidding me? I said, it's great. No, it just sounds so pretentious. That's what we pretend. So this company in Detroit put out this record. And it was, they have Record Day.
Record Store Day.
A couple of years ago, Sony says, well, maybe we can make a couple of hundred records and put in it turned out that they sold 1,600 records of Pompeii that day. That's the only money I ever made on records, was like cash, but the Pompeii thing. So that was Secret Sessions.
Because I think some of the songs Ian took for his own solo album. I think the Outsider was, he
Yeah,
he took on and
right.
re-recorded
Great
it.
song.
Yeah, great song.
I love that song. Yeah, I did it. But no, he has his own voice. He has his own thing. I did a couple of things with Leonard Cohen, actually.
Yeah.
That involved Ian. It was just amazing. And of course, he's on the record after 40 years. Here he is again.
Yeah.
Like I said, Ian, he said, come on, send it. So he played a little keyboard on it.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see. I'm going to probably see him on the way back to wherever I'm back to the US. I'll probably drop by Ian and stuff. He's got a new record coming out.
He has in the year. Yeah, that'd be cool. And then in the 80s, you were back with Leslie for a reformed Mountain. But that didn't last that long. Was it a different feel for the band when you put it back together? Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't really bad. It was just Leslie and myself trying to keep it alive.
Oh, right.
Basically, number one, trying to keep ourselves alive. That was number one. Then we'd look at the music. That was the problem. When the music's first, you have no problem. When you got to start worrying about your health, it's a different thing. But I hope, by the way, Phil, I hope I'm not sounding negative about all this.
No.
I'm being perfectly honest about it, but I don't want to come off as a little bit of a pisser here because
not at all.
Listen, I don't regret anything. I regret everything. Okay.
Well,
sorry,
one of my favorite Mountain albums. Actually, we're going to race forwards now to 2007. Yeah. Now, it might be that you're going to say it's not really a Mountain album, but it came out as a Mountain album, which is Masters of War.
Oh, that's,
Which was a cover just full of Bob Dylan covers.
That's right.
We also had Warren.
I agree with
great.
Well, the point was we had a great producer and we had the studio and we had just enough money, but we didn't have to worry about writing the songs. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say we were a prolific couple. Leslie and myself, we did write some really good things.
Yeah.
That were good. And I think a lot of the problems were we really didn't have a producer and, per se. And over the years, that decade, I call it the dark 80s, we were just trying to string things together, and towards the end, I just bailed. And that's when I bailed. But the point is we came back together. We did a couple of albums. We're all right. Wasn't Over the Top no, that wasn't it.
Is it Go for Your Life?
Yeah, no, but the idea of Masters of War was just like Leslie loved. He somehow broke in way back by himself into Blowing in the Wind, all by himself. He just get on stage. And I said, great. Yeah. And I said, Les, do some more. Let's do some more Dylan stuff. Because he wasn't a Dylan fan, it said, and he started, and if you listen, he broke up a couple of. I listened to some of the songs that he interpreted again, and he had his own approach to certain things. But I remember going to his publisher, Bob Dylan's publisher. It was a friend of a friend, up in the city, and I said we did all these Dylan songs. He was great. I said, how do we do it? She said, well, get me 6 copies. I said, 6 copies? He says, yeah, Bob likes to have 6 copies. He takes, anytime there's a cover, according to the publisher, anytime there's a cover, he has all his family listen to the cover.
Wow.
So they all have their own little record to go home.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know, it did well. It did well for us, for us. And Ozzy was on it.
Ozzy's on the first track, isn't he? The title one, Masters of War.
And he does a great job on it.
He does.
His voice is perfect. Yeah. Leslie put that together. And that was great because I remember in the studio where we were, I put the drums in the middle of the studio. Usually they're in the corner. And but the ambience in one of these studios, right in the middle. So I love the drum sound on that record.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's big. But I'm glad you dig it.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, the way that the world is at the moment, the title track Masters of War has never been more relevant, has it?
Totally. It's everything comes around like that. It's scary, It's scary. Which comes first, the chicken or the war, And
But the last few years for you, Corky, have been really, really busy, haven't they? You've had the Toledo sessions, the Finnish Sessions, and you've also had your autobiography come out, Letters to Sarah, which I've recently had that. I haven't finished reading it yet, but it's such a beautiful way it's so different. It's a bit like Ian Hunter's Diary of a Rock and Roll Star, but obviously in a different slant. But
well, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yeah, of course.
That was my biggest inspiration, because Ian gave me that way back, that with the silver cupper with the glass.
Yeah.
And I said, Ian, he said, it's a beautiful thing. And because there's a lot of people who are coming out with a lot of musicians coming out with books and stuff, Snorting Ants with Ozzy Osbourne and all that. We didn't want that kind of book.
No.
I'm with Tuya Takala, who is my partner. She had a lot to do with. She's a professor, and she made it a book. I just have stories, but I give her total credit for writing a real book. And thank you for saying that. It's really, really cool. I hope you enjoy the rest of it. It's good. And, it's very funny. You mentioned Diary of a Rock Star, and he says, you know what the secret is? He says, you got to mention all the other rock stars, because they'll buy the book just to see their name. And I thought that's perfect, and sure enough, it did. He's on his 6th edition, I think, by the way. Not that. Anyways, I'm running off here. Go ahead.
It's fantastic.
Yes, I have been busy, and it's been great. There was a wonderful experience I had writing the music and participating in Playing God, which was a rock opera of sorts, but it was a pretty sophisticated rock opera having to do with cell manipulation and all the I can't even explain it, because I just did the music. They wanted the music simple. I did that. But that took a couple of years, and we did a couple of performances in New York and at some of the universities. That started me on a personal level, started giving me confidence to sing, because I was actually there was a commission here. We had to describe certain things in the story. So I just had to make sense of that, along with Tuya and her partner at the time, Maddie. And it was a great experience, which sort of jump-started the whole Finnish thing, because I came over here to do a show in Stockholm, and I met Tuya and Maddie, and they said, would you want to do the music for that? And I thought it was a great idea. It's called Playing God. And so that jump-started what I would consider to be a busy time for me, because at that point I went, okay, this is kind of cool. And I decided, I ran into Warren Haynes a couple of times. Big Mountain fan.
Yeah.
And he was playing New Year's Eve 2011 at the Beacon Theater. So he was playing a couple of nights. So I went down with one of the nights, the day before New Year's. And Matt Apps, the drummer there, says, I don't know if you know this, but we're playing Nantucket Sleighride at midnight tomorrow, New Year's Eve. Wow. And I went, no, I didn't know that. And Matt says, oh, shit, I didn't. Why weren't you invited to? Because you're here. I went, yeah. Anyways, he said, no, we got to go upstairs. So Matt Apps takes me upstairs in the backstage and at the Beacon. And I walk in, and Warren puts his head down. He says, Corky, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, why didn't I invite you tomorrow night to play Nantucket Sleighride? And I said, Matt he says, I'll tell you why. Because the last 10 years, I've come to see you and Leslie play, and you butchered the fucking song so much I didn't even recognize it. He says, Corky, I bet you don't even know the arrangement for Nantucket Sleighride. And I looked at him and I went, you're right. He says, tell you what, Corky, you learn the arrangement for that song tomorrow at sound check. If you got it, you're on for midnight. Wow. So that caused, the reason I'm telling you that story, it caused me he says, if you're going to play Mountain, play it the way it was recorded. That's what people loved. Not so much, it's a hit song. They weren't. There's no real hit songs except for the Queen. And I did. I went back and I went, holy shit, he's right. And I got it. And that sort of inspired me. If I'm going to put a band together, because I've been invited a million times, come on stage, play this, sit in for this. Fuck the sitting on. I said, I'm going to make a band and play the songs properly. And that's the story of the next few years, actually.
That's a great story. And all through this busy period, in the middle of it, Leslie West passes away on December the 23rd, 2020, which obviously was not a complete shock, because he hadn't been very well for some time. Yeah. But obviously there was an end of an era. I mean, what are your fondest memories of Leslie?
It's funny at this point, Phil, after a few years, I've been asked a few times, I don't have like an answer for that. I don't have a cut and dry. Yeah. This is the way I feel. This is what I'm going through. I don't still know. I'm talking to you about it. And it's just like a huge, like War and Peace book comes out of my head of those. I mean, we're talking decades.
Yeah, of course.
Marriages, contracts, divorces, you name it, drugs and all this. And I have no standard answer for that. I wish I did. So I could say, by the way, this is, but I don't even know what to say at this point.
Are you're contributing towards a book on mounting, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did you hear that? It's supposed to be on you. You know that shit, don't you?
Yes, that's all I know. I know the publisher who hinted that you might be.
Yeah,
so I hope that's okay.
No, it is. It's actually going. It's going. Well, there's never been. I was going to write with Tuya, except that she's exhausted from the letters to Sarah. She says, Gorka, I don't know about it. I was going to do a quintessential mountain book because there is none. Every band has their book. Yeah. So this guy called me. He said, I got this publisher, Jerry, and he says then the writer called me, and I never met him. He says, listen, he did an article, which was very, very cool, way back in Goldmine magazine. He says, can I talk to you about it? I said, well, I was going to, but I have 3 chapters already. I wrote, just rough, whatever. Yeah. And at that time I said, you know what? Why do you want to write it? And he says, because I think there's a lot more to the mountain than just the drugs, a couple of songs, bad relations. I said, well, okay. So we started talking, a few months ago, and it's going pretty well. Apparently he's up to 20,000 words. Don't say anything.
No.
Anyway, of all things, you would know that. That is. You got me on that one, Phil. I don't know what to say again.
That's okay. Well, I thought it was a way of segueing out of what was your favorite story about Leslie. So it'll be in the book.
It would. No, but it's not. I'm I guess co-authoring, but it's not mine. It's the book. He's done the research. He's done, and boy, he found out things. Listen, I've been in with Mountain Thing for 50 years. Yeah. He came out with stuff that he knows the background of this. And I thought I knew everything, but the research is going to be quite a book. If it continues to go the way it's going, it's going to be it'll be a proper book. It won't just be
sounds great. But there again, your autobiography, Letter to Sarah, is also fantastic. Now, your next live gig, I believe, is your birthday bash on January the 26th in Florida next year. Is that right?
You know all this shit. I wasn't expecting this. Yes. I wanted to do, there's a club in Florida that we play. I played with Kofi Baker. Yeah. We had a great time. And it's the summer, it's Florida. It's summer. We just finished Germany. We just finished the UK. I'm in Finland. Yeah. And I'm looking forward. So is Tuya. We're looking forward to going to Florida. I said, let's see if we can get booked the Funky Biscuit. So I called the guy and I said, listen, I don't put on the spot, but I want to play it. And I want to play on my birthday. It's not as if I'm Elton John calling and I want that date. It's just like the guy says, well, what do you think? I said, either give me the date or don't. Just say it's my birthday. So it was like just one of those things, whatever. And sure enough, all of a sudden it's building up to the 7. All of a sudden getting calls. Yeah, I'd like to come down here. 70. And you're invited too, Phil. Your listeners, come on down. It's the Funky Biscuit. How can you forget that name? The Funky Biscuit.
Impossible, I would say. So have you got any? So is there anything special planned for this for your birthday bash?
I'm trying to think of it now that you mention it. Now that you got me on the spot, I'm thinking, shit, I better come up with something. I'm going to have to play really well, which it doesn't. I'm practicing every day, don't I? But anything special, it'll happen. Yeah, I have a lot of musicians. I'm going to give Carmine Peachy a call and see if he can, because he's down there.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
He owes me a favor. He owes me a couple, actually. And so I'll try to, I will try to, I'm not going to try to, I'm just inviting people if they can come, they come, and like I said, jump on a plane. Now, there is a direct flight, by the way, from England or from London.
Okay. Bear that in mind. Thank you. And I just want to say to everyone watching and listening that you must check out the Finnish Sessions, the new album by Corky Laing, because it's absolutely superb.
Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely brilliant. And where's the best place? Where would you prefer people to buy your album from?
Really good idea. I think you would go to my website, and the website is corkylangworks.com, and there'll be a place to go to get. See, it's a German release, and I'm not sure if it's on Amazon. It's on Spotify. Yeah. It's on Spotify, but
you want people to buy the CD, don't we?
Yeah. It's coming out on vinyl too.
Oh, wow.
Great. Yeah, it is. But that won't be until the new year. No. But keep that in mind. I'm looking at it right now, trying to figure out how can I answer your question. I'll read this. But basically, I think corkylangworks.com. And it'll say the Finnish Sessions and how to get it. It'd be great. That'd be great. It's actually, again, I'm going to say it's beginning some review. I'm really knocked out. Between you and I, how many drummers put out these things that they win a flow?
Well, I think it has. I feel very confident saying this because I think that for a lot of musicians, kind of lean into the back catalogue a great deal. But this album and the Toledo Sessions are just such powerful, strong albums. That they, I should obviously put links to them when I put this out on the website and everything. They are brilliant, superb.
Thank you so much. I tell you, that's very encouraging and very kind.
Yeah,
and I did read on your site where you said that people that do the interviews, they do sell more CDs. Have that one. That's putting it straight. It'll help.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you, Corky, for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I've really, really enjoyed it. And thank you for answering my questions.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for listening. It's a lot of words there, but it's been fun. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Okay, Corky, I'll talk to you soon and take care. And
we'll catch up to you. So
all the best. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you for watching and listening. And a special thanks to my guest, Corky Laing. And don't forget to check out Corky's new album, The Finnish Sessions, which is absolutely superb and highly recommended. And make sure you subscribe to nowspinning.co.uk so you don't miss out on any of our future videos, podcasts, and web posts. Take care, and I shall talk to you very soon.